You can't give forgiveness away casually in the context of a relationship. If someone hurt you in the past and they're out of your life, there are practices that you might undertake to free you of the burden you might still be carrying because of their betrayal. But in the context of an ongoing relationship, it's very difficult and likely inappropriate to forgive without understanding. If I'm having a fight with my wife, let's say, or vice versa, we're coming across an issue that's really quite sticky, and maybe there's some betrayal, real or imagined, involved. We have to get to the bottom of things. We have to sort out what happened. We have to set it straight, and then we both have to swear not to have that happen again. And then you can forgive and move on. It's not like whitewash. It's not like you can paint over a situation. You have to deal with it. Then you're a fool not to forgive under those circumstances, because otherwise you propagate the cost. These are very difficult things to manage.
In a situation where a person has done you wrong, and maybe that person doesn't see your point of view, they don't want to accept your point of view, and they think that they haven't done anything wrong, so they don't want to, they don't want to level with you or come to an understanding so that you are able to forgive them. In those situations, would you say that it would be best to kind of reflect on yourself, so kind of forgive them in a sense that you're forgiving them for yourself so you don't hold that burden, but you won't forget what they have done, so you realize that maybe, they have a specific role in your life? One
of the things you can do if you're attempting to deal with someone with whom you're struggling and have a conflict is, if they're not listening to you, you can stop talking. That's very effective. If you're attempting to communicate and you are not being listened to, you are misperceiving the person you're talking to and the situation that you're in. You are talking to someone other than the person who is there, and that's why they're not listening. Now, you might not be wise enough to fix that, but one of the things you can do is stop talking. This is very useful. I mean, purely practically. If someone isn't listening to you, you should watch for that. If they're not listening, you should stop talking and you should start watching like a hawk. What's been revealed to you is the fact that your understanding of the situation is radically insufficient. You are not where you think you are, and you are not talking to who you think you're talking to. Now, if you cease talking and start watching and listening, they will tell you who they are and what they're up to. Now, that might take a while, although it generally happens faster than you'd think. And then they'll tell you. Right. And then the communication will start to flow again. It's a remarkable thing to try. Let's say that you have forgiven someone multiple times and the transgressions continue. Then you might ask yourself, well, what did it mean when you forgave them? Like if I just say to you, this is another example of the shallowness of just saying. I could say to you, I forgive you. I could pretend to myself that those words have significance, but if the problem that's at hand hasn't been addressed, then those words have no meaning. And you can't force yourself to forgive someone. That isn't how it works. Forgiveness is actually extraordinarily difficult. It means making peace. If you were wise, you'd want to be in a position where if you could see your pathway forward to forgive, that's what you would do. And I would say you just do that practically. It's because, well, here's some questions. Do you want an enemy?
No.
Well, sometimes people want an enemy because it gives them something to wrestle with, or it gives them a reason to be a martyr, or it makes them think they're doing something important. It's exciting to have an enemy because it's a false adventure. There are reasons, but it's dangerous to have an enemy, and so it's rather foolish if you don't need to.
It's a burden.
It's definitely a burden, and especially as the number of enemies mount and their seriousness, right? And it's a true danger. It's very exhausting to be angry and bitter and resentful, and it makes you hopeless and depressed. So that seems to be relatively undesirable unless you want to be hopeless and depressed. And so if you were wise,
people search for that, though. People want to be in that predicament.
People will choose false adventures if they don't choose real adventures. And being a martyr and being angry and having enemies when they're unnecessary, those are forms of false adventure. As you become more sophisticated, you get better at making peace. And so then you might ask yourself, if you were as sophisticated as you could be, could you make peace everywhere? If you're striving to make peace with someone and they reject it, then, well, that's a good time to reconsider your approach, or possibly to turn your attention elsewhere. There's a time and a place for everything. It isn't always the case that you have the sophistication to force peace on a situation prematurely.